My father slammed his fist on the table, his voice thundering, "Get out of this house tonight!" All because I dared to love a boy and turned my back on his dream of sending me abroad to study. 15 years later, they walked into my bakery, unaware I was the daughter they'd disowned, and the birthday cake I made for my father left the room in stunned silence. I'm Emily Thompson, 33 years old, and this is a story for those who've walked through the autumns of life, who know that scars may heal but memories linger. From a homeless girl sleeping under Boston's Charles River Bridge, I built a chain of beloved birthday cake bakeries and found my family again after 15 years apart. If you're reading this, tell me where you're from and share a memory of overcoming hardship in the comments below. Boston, Massachusetts. 2010 was a city alive with cobblestone streets and the warm glow of cafe lights. But for me, the night of my high school graduation from Boston Latin was shrouded in darkness and pain. I was Emily Thompson, 18, standing in the elegant living room of our colonial home in Back Bay, facing my parents' fury. My father, Robert Thompson, 62, was a renowned lawyer, a towering man with a deep voice that could silence a courtroom. He took pride in mapping out his children's futures. My mother, Margaret Thompson, 60, a former literature teacher, was known for her strictness and high expectations. Her blonde hair was always neatly pinned, her blue eyes sharp as ice. They'd charted my path study law at Cambridge University in England and inherit my father's firm. They called it the Thompson family legacy, but I had a secret. I was in love with David Sullivan, my classmate, a boy with sea-green eyes and a smile that set my heart racing. David didn't come from wealth. His father was a plumber, his mother a grocery clerk in Roxbury. Yet he had talent and grit. He dreamed of becoming a civil engineer, designing bridges and buildings that bore his mark. We'd vowed to attend the University of Massachusetts together, to build a future side by side, by the Charles River, under twinkling lights. We spun dreams: a little house with a white picket fence, a daisy garden, and a simple, full life. When my parents found out, they dismissed my love as a youthful folly. They demanded I end it with David and board a plane to England after graduation. I'd kept our relationship hidden. But one night, my mother found my diary, filled with entries about David, our dates at Boston Common, and our shared hopes. She flung it onto the table, her eyes blazing with anger. "I'm not going anywhere," I said, my voice trembling but firm, standing before them in my Navy graduation dress, fists clenched to steady myself. "I want to stay with David, study here, and live my own life." My father, usually composed with clients, slammed the table, making the crystal vase tremble. "You dare defy me, Emily? After all the money, all the years I've poured into you, you choose that boy with no future? Who do you think you are?" He loomed over the room, his presence swallowing the light. My mother, who often softened our fights, fixed me with a cold stare. "If you won't listen, you're no daughter of mine," she said, her voice cutting like a blade. "We gave you everything: a top school, a beautiful home, opportunities others only dream of, and you'd throw it away for some boy," I tried to explain, "to share David's dreams, our love, the evenings he taught me to read blueprints, his passion lighting up every story he told." But my father cut me off. "Enough. Get out of this house tonight. If you choose him, you're no longer my daughter. Don't ever come back." He pointed to the door. His face flushed, veins bulging on his forehead. I stood there, tears streaming down my cheeks. I wanted to scream, to beg, to say I still loved them, that I just wanted to follow my heart. But pride held me back. I turned, dragging a small suitcase with a few clothes, some books, and the silver necklace David gave me. I stepped out of the house, past the fiery red maples where I'd played as a child. Behind me, I heard my mother's sobs, but no one called me back. That night, Boston greeted me with a chilling rain, and I became homeless. Boston wasn't kind to an 18-year-old girl with no home, no money, no family. I called David, my voice breaking over a cheap prepaid phone. He came right away, pedaling his old bike through the rain, his jacket soaked. "Emily, stay with me. I'll take care of you," he said, holding me tight under a flickering streetlight in Alston. His brown hair clung to his forehead, but his green eyes shone with worry. But David was just a freshman, living in a 100-square-foot room in Alston, with peeling walls and creaking floors. He worked part-time at an auto shop to cover tuition. I couldn't bear to burden him. "Focus on school," I told him, though fear gnawed at me. "I'll manage." I started looking for work, any work. My first day, I handed out flyers at Quincy Market, jostled by passers-by, the cold wind biting through my thin jacket. At night, I waited tables at a dive bar in South End, pouring beer and whiskey for drunken patrons. Their crude remarks scared me, but I gritted my teeth. The meager pay barely covered hot dogs from street carts and a little cash to help David buy textbooks. With no money for rent, I began sleeping under the Charles River Bridge, where the river reflected the city's lights. I lied to David, saying I was staying with a friend. Each night, I curled up in an old blanket from a thrift store, listening to cars roaring overhead and wind whistling through the gaps. I hid my belongings in a corner, terrified of thieves. Once, a group of drunk teens spotted me, laughing and tossing beer cans my way. "Having fun out here?" "Sweetheart," one shouted. I clutched my bag, fleeing into the dark, my heart pounding. By the river, I huddled and whispered to myself, "Emily, you've got to be strong. You'll get through this." David was my only light in those dark days. On weekends, he'd bike me to Boston Common for hot dogs, the park's maples glowing red in the fall sun. He'd talk about his engineering drawings, the bridge he dreamed of designing. "Emily, we'll make it, as long as we're together," he said, squeezing my hand. I believed him, but seeing him thin from late-night shifts, I wondered if love could hold up against the world. My life shifted one fateful afternoon in 2011 when I met Dorothy Miller, the elderly owner of a small bakery in Jamaica Plain. I was handing out flyers near her shop, sweating and exhausted after hours in the sun. Dorothy, in her 70s, with silver hair and a warm smile, called me over. "You look worn out, dear. Want to rest inside? I could use help learning to bake." I hesitated. Baking, I'd never considered it. I could barely cook pasta or fry eggs. But Dorothy was patient, guiding me into her cozy kitchen, fragrant with vanilla and chocolate. She taught me to whip cream, knead dough, and pipe buttercream roses. I fell in love with the work. Each cake was a creation, bringing joy to others. When a mother cried, thanking me for her daughter's birthday cake, I realized I could spark happiness, even when my own life felt shrouded in shadow. I worked tirelessly, learning daily, and began dreaming of my own bakery. Dorothy became my teacher, friend, and sometimes a second mother. She shared stories of her own struggles after World War II, raising 3 kids alone. "You're stronger than you know, Emily," she said, her hand on my shoulder. "Don't let your past define you." But that dream nearly crumbled when David fell ill. One day, he coughed up blood, and doctors at Massachusetts General diagnosed severe bacterial pneumonia. Treatments urgent, but costly. They said David had limited insurance, and his family couldn't afford the bills. I picked up extra shifts, working the bar until 2 a.m. But it wasn't enough. David wasted away, his green eyes dull with fever. "Leave me, Emily," he whispered in the hospital. "You deserve better." "Don't say that." I cried, tears falling. "You're why I stayed. I'm not giving up." I wanted to use my $800 in savings for his bills, but he refused. "Use it for your bakery." "Emily, it's your dream." "I'll be okay." David slowly recovered after 3 months, thanks to a charity Dorothy connected us with. I knew I couldn't let life slip by in poverty. I borrowed $2,000 from Dorothy, rented a tiny space in Dorchester, and opened my first bakery. Edie Cakes, named for Emily and David. It was just a counter with an old oven, a wooden table, and plastic chairs. But every cake I made carried my love, hope, and determination. ED Cakes caught on fast in Boston. Customers adored the intricately decorated birthday cakes, from delicate buttercream flowers to hand-drawn chocolate designs. My flavors, sweet vanilla, rich chocolate, fresh strawberry, kept them coming back. I created all-in-one birthday party packages, with cakes, candles, and balloon-decorated backdrops. People weren't just buying cakes, they were buying moments, kids' laughter, family hugs, memories that lasted. I worked 16-hour days, kneading dough at dawn and delivering cakes at night on David's old bike. After graduating with an engineering degree, he took freelance design jobs and crafted ED Cakes logo a cake with intertwined E and D, and designed the first shop with rustic wooden shelves and warm golden lights. In 2015, I opened a second location in Back Bay, blocks from my childhood home. Standing outside, watching customers line up, I felt pride mixed with pain. I'd made it, but without my parents to see. By 2020, ED Cakes had 10 locations across Boston, from vibrant South End to quiet Cambridge. Each shop bore the mark of my love with David. We named cakes after our memories: Boston Rain Cake, inspired by the night I left home, with cool blue frosting; Sea Light Cake, for David's green eyes, with sweet blueberry filling; and Journey Cake, a tiered cake telling our story through flavors, from bitter coffee to creamy vanilla. Success gave me a life I'd never dared dream of. I bought a small apartment in Jamaica Plain, with windows overlooking a park and a kitchen for testing recipes. David and I married in 2018 in a simple ceremony by the Charles River, where we'd once dated. He gave me a silver ring engraved with Journey, and we promised to walk it together. But success didn't erase the ache in my heart. Each night, closing the shop, I thought of my parents. They'd moved to England after I left, chasing a business opportunity for my father. I'd sent letters to our old Back Bay address, sharing my life, the bakery, David. No reply came. I wondered if they thought of me, or if I'd been erased from their family. Some nights, I sat by my window, watching Boston's lights, and cried for the evenings we'd spent by the fireplace, my mother reading Robert Frost. In 2025, Boston still shimmered with golden autumn leaves. ED Cakes was a household name, featured in food magazines and local TV. One October morning, my downtown shop got an urgent cake order over the phone. An older woman, her voice trembling, said, "It's for my husband's 77th birthday. He's in the hospital. Can you deliver today?" I took the order, sensing her desperation. I made the cake myself, a 3-tiered chocolate cake, adorned with buttercream carnations and happy birthday. Robert in white chocolate. I chose carnations. My mother's favorite flower, though I didn't know why the memory surfaced. I pulled on my coat, knit cap, and delivered it to Massachusetts General Hospital. Entering the room, I froze. The frail man on the bed, white-haired and hooked to oxygen, was my father, Robert Thompson. Beside him was my mother, Margaret, thinner than 15 years ago, but still elegant with her silver hair pinned up. She held his hand, whispering softly. My hands shook, the cake box trembling. My mother looked up, her blue eyes widening. "Emily," she whispered, as if she couldn't believe it. My father, weak, tried to sit up, his cloudy eyes suddenly bright. "Emily, my daughter," I set the cake down, tears spilling. Why are you here? I thought you were in England." I choked out, time rewinding to that fateful night. My mother sobbed, standing to hug me tightly. "We came back to the States last year. Sweetheart, your father has heart failure, in and out of hospitals. I looked for you everywhere, but didn't know where you were. Today, I called the nearest bakery. I had no idea it was yours." My father reached out a frail hand, his voice faint but heavy with feeling. "Emily, I owe you an apology. That night, I was too angry, too stubborn. I was wrong to drive you away. I was wrong not to listen." I knelt by his bed, grasping his hand, feeling its fragility. "I owe you both an apology, too," I said, tears falling. I was stubborn, defiant, and tore our family apart. I wanted to call so many times, but I was afraid. Afraid you didn't want me anymore. We sat in that sterile hospital room, sharing 15 years of separation. My parents spoke of their life in England, their lonely years in London, missing me every time a blonde girl passed by. They said my father retired after a minor heart attack, and they returned to Boston to be near family memories. They hadn't known I'd become someone. That ED cakes was mine, until now. I told them about sleeping under the Charles River Bridge, the freezing nights with only a thin blanket. I shared about David, the love that kept me grounded, about Dorothy and my first bakery. I spoke of ED cakes, how I turned pain into cakes that brought joy to thousands. When I opened the cake box, my father smiled faintly, his eyes glinting with pride. "It's beautiful, my girl, just like you, strong and full of love." My mother touched the cake, her fingers trembling. "Carnations. You remembered I love them," she said, her voice breaking. I nodded, unable to speak, feeling my heart mend after years of hurt. After that reunion, my parents moved near my downtown ED cake shop. My father grew stronger, though he needed regular care. He loved sitting in the shop's corner, watching me decorate cakes, sharing stories of his courtroom victories. My mother became my partner, suggesting new cake ideas. She proposed a reunion cake with light vanilla frosting and strawberry jam, symbolizing families coming back together. David, now a respected engineer designing bridges and buildings across New England, built a special ED cake shop called Family Cake in Brookline. It's a space for reunions, with walls displaying customers' family photos and stories of forgiveness. He told me, "This is for people who lost each other, but found their way back like you and your parents." My parents and I began healing old wounds. We talked about our mistakes, misunderstandings, and the pain that split us. I thought family honor was everything. My father said one winter evening by the fireplace, "I feared losing face before friends, colleagues. But I lost what mattered most, my daughter." I admitted my own faults. I could have called, written, tried to talk, instead of walking away. But I was scared you'd never understand me. My mother held my hand, tears falling. I wanted to run after you that night, Emily, but I was too weak, too afraid of your father. I was wrong. ED Cakes became more than a bakery. It became a symbol of forgiveness and reunion. I started free baking workshops for Boston's underserved kids, hoping to show them they can rewrite their stories. Monthly, I host families who've been apart, baking together and sharing their journeys. An 80-year-old woman once told me, "You remind me it's never too late to say sorry." David and I started our own family. In 2024, we welcomed our daughter, Lily, with green eyes like her father's. Each night, I tell her about her grandparents, my journey, and how love and perseverance conquer all. My parents adore Lily like a gift, and I see my father's eyes light up when he holds her, as if redeeming the years he lost with me. To those of you past 60, you know life is a series of autumn's falling leaves, cold winds, but also warm sunlight through the branches. I was once a girl shivering under the Charles River Bridge, cast out by my family, with only a thin blanket. Now I'm Emily Thompson, owner of ED Cakes, a wife, a mother, and a daughter reunited after 15 years. If you've been hurt, thought you couldn't rise again, remember you're stronger than you know. Every step, however slow or painful, is part of a greater journey. What pain have you overcome to become who you are? Share your story below, or pass this on to someone who needs it. I've learned forgiveness isn't erasing the past, it's letting your heart breathe again. It's not forgetting, but choosing love despite the pain. My parents and I found each other, not because we're perfect, but because we faced our mistakes and opened our hearts to a second chance. You can too with family, friends, or yourself. ED Cakes doesn't just sell cakes. We sell hope, moments of reunion, and faith that every story can have a beautiful ending. I still bake daily, standing in a kitchen fragrant with vanilla, smiling at my journey. From a homeless girl, I built a family, a career, and a legacy of resilience. Your stories aren't so different. You, who've lived decades, have tales of rejection, rising, and finding light in the dark. What made you who you are if you have an apology unspoken or forgiveness unoffered? Today could be the day to start. Emily Thompson's story in Under Boston's Lights is a tapestry of resilience, forgiveness, and the enduring power of love and grit. As a 33-year-old who climbed from homelessness to a bakery empire, her 15-year odyssey speaks to those over 60 who've weathered life's storms and value second chances. Here are the lessons her journey offers, written to resonate with the wisdom of those who've seen many seasons. First, Emily's resilience shines through her rise above rejection. Disowned at 18 for choosing love over her parents' plans, she faced nights under the Charles River Bridge, battling cold and fear. Yet she refused to be defined by hardship. For those who've known rejection from family, work, or society, her story reminds us that setbacks don't dictate our value. Her grit, taking on grueling jobs, echoes a truth we learn with age. Resilience is pushing through pain. Emily's path from homeless teen to ED Cakes' owner shows that even in our darkest hours, we can rebuild. Second, her courage to forge her own path inspires authenticity. Defying her parents' dream of Cambridge for a life with David, she lost their support, but found her calling in baking. For those who've faced pressure to conform to careers, marriages, or roles, Emily's choice resonates. Many of us recall moments we followed our hearts, despite the cost. Her story urges us to honor those decisions and encourage others to trust their paths, however uncertain. Forgiveness, as Emily shows, is a gift to ourselves. Reuniting with her parents after 15 years, she exchanged apologies, not erasing pain, but choosing to move forward. For those carrying old wounds, her story nudges us toward forgiveness. Age sharpens our sense of time's brevity, and grudges weigh heavy. Emily's balance of forgiveness and boundaries offers a model we can heal while honoring ourselves. Her story also celebrates love and community. David's loyalty, Dorothy's mentorship, and her customers' support lifted her. For those reflecting on life, this recalls the mentors, friends, or strangers who became family. Emily's success was a collective effort, urging us to give back through kindness, mentorship, or a listening ear. Finally, E.D. Cake's legacy of hope challenges us to leave a mark. Her bakeries created joy, and her workshops for kids ensured her struggles had purpose. For those in later years, this prompts reflection. What legacy are we building? Emily's journey from rejection to inspiration shows our deepest wounds can birth our greatest gifts. Emily's story is a beacon for those over 60, guiding us to persevere, live authentically, forgive, connect, and leave hope. What lessons from your journey can light another's way? Thank you for walking with me through this story. If it touched your heart, share it with a loved one, a friend, or anyone needing hope. And please, leave your story in the comments. I'd love to read it. Every day is a chance to write a new chapter, and you, who've seen many autumns, are the best storytellers. This translation captures the emotional weight, nostalgic tone, and resilient spirit of the original, tailored for an American audience, particularly older readers who value family, forgiveness, and perseverance. Let me know if you'd like further refinements or additional analysis.